I am Clara Mitchell, 35 years old, a financial analyst in Chicago, a city of glass towers, crowded streets, and sleepless nights. From the outside, people think I have it all. A career that looks solid, an apartment with a balcony facing the river, and a family that always smiles when they speak of me. At work, I am the one they rely on, the woman who never misses a deadline, the one who solves the mess when numbers don't add up. They whisper, "She's untouchable. She always delivers." I smile, nod, and keep the mask on. But masks are heavy, and mine has been carved deep into my skin. Every morning I step into the high-rise where I work. The lobby smells of marble polish and roasted coffee. Elevators hum like restless machines. I walk past polished shoes and sharp suits, my heels clicking in rhythm. Inside the conference room, screens glow with data. My charts light up the walls. My boss leans forward. "Excellent work, Clara," he says, sharp and sure. And I reply, "Steady. Thank you. The final report will be ready tomorrow." Applause, a nod of respect. Another day of being the reliable one. But the applause fades the moment I return home. At night, my apartment is quiet. The only sound is the faint hum of the fridge and the echo of my own breathing. I sit at my desk, open my laptop. The glow cuts across the dark room. I type the numbers. $3,000 every month. The same ritual, transferred straight into my parents' account. My finger hovers over the button. Just a second of hesitation. Then, click. The balance drops. The confirmation page flashes green. Another month. Another payment. I gather the stack of papers beside me. Health insurance policies, life insurance contracts, a supplemental retirement account with their names. Every line, every signature, is mine. All of it funded by me. I whisper to myself, "This is love. This is what daughters do. This is family." And sometimes, I almost believe it. The phone rings. I press speaker. "Clara, sweetheart," my mother's voice flows through. Soft, sweet, almost angelic. "You're our blessing, our angel. We don't know what we'd do without you." Then my father's voice, deeper, carrying warmth. "Always knew you'd take care of us, Clara. We're proud of you, so proud." I press my lips together. A smile forces its way out. "I'm happy to help, Mom. Dad, I'll always be here." When the call ends, the silence is heavier than before, the kind of silence that seeps into your bones. I lean back in my chair, staring at the skyline outside my window. Chicago glitters in the distance, skyscrapers glowing like promises. Freedom, joy, a life waiting to be lived. But my freedom feels locked away. My joy feels borrowed, and my life belongs to someone else. I tell myself it's worth it, that this is what love looks like, that sacrifices bind us together, stronger than blood. But in the shadows of my mind, a whisper rises, faint, relentless. Something is wrong. Something is not as it seems. I push it down. I silence it. Because I want to believe. I want to trust. I believe in family. I believe blood means loyalty. I believe my sacrifices are seen and cherished. So I cling to hope. I hold it tight, though it feels fragile in my hands. I picture my parents smiling. I picture Ethan, my younger brother, nodding with gratitude. I imagine them sitting together, knowing I am the reason they are safe. But imagination can be cruel, because soon the truth will come. It will not whisper, it will roar. The foundation I have built my life upon will crack. The words, "We're proud of you," will reveal themselves as hollow, and I will see what I was to them all along. Not a daughter, not their angel, not their pride, but a machine. An endless stream of money wrapped in human form. An ATM with a heartbeat. I did not know it then, but that day was waiting. Waiting to break me. Waiting to open my eyes. Waiting to turn love into betrayal. I thought love was simple. I thought loyalty was silent but strong. I thought blood meant safety. But the cracks began on a quiet afternoon. It was raining that day, the kind of rain that taps against the window like a steady drum. I had stopped by my parents' house, arms full of groceries. I told myself I was helping them, saving them time, saving them money. In truth, I was desperate for their smile, for their gratitude, for some proof that all of this sacrifice was worth it. I stepped into the hallway. The smell of old carpet and furniture polish clung to the air. I was about to call out, "Mom, Dad, I'm here," when I heard voices. Not just voices, but words. Ethan's voice, my younger brother, confident, almost smug. "Clara never says no, Mom. You could ask for more. Just raise the number. She'll pay. She always does." My breath caught. The grocery bag slipped slightly in my hands. Eggs cracked inside the carton. My knees felt weak. Then came my mother's laugh. Not the laugh I knew from childhood. Not soft, not loving, but sharp, knowing. "As long as she doesn't suspect, Ethan, we'll be fine." For a moment, I thought I misheard. The rain was loud. The house creaked with the wind. Maybe I misunderstood. But the way they spoke, casual, unguarded, it was clear they weren't worried about me hearing. Because in their minds, I was predictable, reliable, blind. I stepped back, pressing my hand against the wall to steady myself. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Every beat felt like it was cracking something inside me. I whispered inside my mind, "Maybe it's not what I think. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe it isn't about me." I wanted to believe that lie. I needed to. I set the groceries on the counter, my smile forced back into place. When Margaret walked in, she kissed my cheek, her perfume sweet but cloying. "Clara, darling, you always bring too much. You're spoiling us." Her eyes were bright, her voice honeyed, and all I could do was nod. "Of course, Mom. I just want you to be comfortable." But the words I'd overheard, they sat in my stomach like poison. That night, in my apartment, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The words looped again and again. "She'll pay. She always does. As long as she doesn't suspect." I pressed my pillow over my ears as if I could block them out, but they lived inside me now. Days passed. I tried to brush it aside. I told myself to let it go, but the doubt clung to me. It colored every memory, every gesture. Then, another sign came. The following week, I visited again. I carried with me more cash, tucked inside an envelope, because my mother had told me her medication was getting expensive. She looked tired when she said it. Her voice trembled, and guilt pierced me. So I prepared to give more, always more. But in the kitchen, while pouring myself water, I noticed something on the counter, a receipt, folded once, left behind. I should have ignored it. I should have walked away. But my hand reached for it. The paper was damp from condensation, the ink slightly smudged. I unfolded it slowly, and there it was. A luxury spa. Facials, massages, treatments. The total, hundreds of dollars. And the name printed clearly, Margaret Mitchell. I froze. The room tilted. The glass in my hand nearly slipped. This was not medicine, not survival, not need. This was indulgence. While I broke my back working late nights, while I denied myself vacations, new clothes, even peace of mind, she was lying in luxury, covered in warm towels and oils. My lips trembled. I whispered to the empty room. No, she wouldn't. She couldn't, but the proof was in my hand. I clutched the receipt until it crumpled. The edges dug into my palm. And still, when she walked in, smiling, holding a tray of cookies, her voice warm. "Clara, sweetheart, would you like some tea?" I smiled back. "Yes, Mom. Tea would be nice." I couldn't confront her. Not yet. The fear of losing her love was stronger than my anger. That night, I sat at my desk, the receipt in front of me, the paper stained with the dampness of my hands. I stared at it for hours. My thoughts whispered and screamed at once. Maybe she forgot to tell you. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe you are overreacting. Maybe. But the whisper of doubt had grown teeth. It bit into every thought, every memory. I remembered her words. "You are our angel. We don't know what we'd do without you." Now they sounded different. They sounded like a script, a rehearsed line. My chest ached with a truth I didn't want to name. I curled up on the couch, clutching the receipt. Tears slipped silently down my cheeks, and my voiceover whispered through the silence. That was the first crack, small, almost invisible. But once something begins to break, it never truly stops. I wanted to believe in them. I wanted to keep being their angel. But deep down, I knew the fracture would spread. It always does, and soon, the cracks would reveal everything I had been too afraid to see. It was supposed to be an ordinary visit, nothing unusual. Just another day at my parents' house. The smell of coffee lingered in the kitchen. Rain tapped gently against the windows. The kind of afternoon that makes you feel safe. That makes you forget the storms that might be waiting outside. But the storm wasn't outside. It was in the room with me. Ethan had left his laptop open on the dining table, the screen still glowing. Emails lined up in a thread. I hesitated. I told myself to look away, to respect his privacy, to act like the daughter and sister I always tried to be. But something in me had already started to break. That whisper of doubt from the week before. When I overheard their cruel laughter, it pushed me closer. So I leaned in, and I read. The words hit like a blade straight to the chest. "Just let Clara handle it. She's nothing more than a walking ATM." Signed, Thomas Mitchell. My father. For a second, my vision blurred. I felt the blood rush from my face. The letters on the screen danced, like they were mocking me. A walking ATM. That's what I was. Not a daughter, not their pride, not their angel. Just a machine. A resource. A bank with legs. My breath came sharp and uneven. I snapped the laptop shut. Hard. The sound echoed through the room, louder than thunder. My hands trembled so badly I could barely stand. I pressed them against the table, trying to steady myself. But the tears came anyway. Hot, silent, unstoppable. I whispered to myself, "No, it's not true. Not Dad. Not him." But I had seen it. Black and white. His words. His truth. And in that moment, every memory began to twist. Every, "We're proud of you." Every, "You're our angel." Every, gentle smile. They all replayed in my mind, warped and hollow. It wasn't pride. It wasn't gratitude. It was a script, a performance perfected over years, designed to keep me giving, to keep me blind, to keep me paying. I left the house in a daze. The rain hit my face, cold and sharp, but I barely felt it. I drove through the city streets, headlights blurring into streaks of gold and white. The wheel shook in my hands. I couldn't stop crying. My chest ached so deeply it felt like my heart was tearing apart. By the time I reached my apartment, I was shaking. I slammed the door behind me, locked it, slid down until I was on the floor. My sobs echoed off the walls. I pressed my forehead against the wood and whispered into the empty room, "They don't love me. They never did." The words hung in the air like smoke, bitter, toxic, but true. And slowly, my tears began to dry. In their place came something colder, not wild anger, not screaming rage, but something sharper, controlled, like ice spreading through my veins. I stood up. My hands wiped the wetness from my cheeks. My eyes found the filing cabinet in the corner of my living room, and I walked toward it. I pulled open the drawer. Inside, years of my life, bank statements, insurance contracts, retirement accounts in their names, proof of every sacrifice. I stacked them on the desk. The weight of the paper felt crushing. I turned on the printer and fed it files one by one. The machine whirred, spitting out page after page. The sound filled the silence like the beat of a war drum. Over and over until the floor was covered in paper. I sat in the middle of it all, surrounded by white sheets that told the story of my betrayal. The only light came from a single lamp casting shadows across my face. I picked up a page, a bank transfer confirmation. $3,000 every month, without fail. I picked up another, an insurance policy. My parents' names bold at the top, my signature at the bottom. Each page was another wound, another scar carved into me. I clenched one until it crumpled, the edges cutting into my palm. And I whispered, my voice steady now. They think I'm weak. They think I'll never stop. But they don't know me. That night, something inside me died. The obedient daughter, the endless provider, the woman desperate to be loved. She was gone. In her place, someone new was born, someone sharper, someone who understood that silence could be a weapon. That revenge didn't need shouting. It needed planning. I grabbed a legal pad and began to write. Cancel transfers, close accounts, remove their names from every policy, keep every piece of evidence. Every line I wrote was not just a note. It was a strike. Every cancellation, a blade. Every step, a declaration of war. Because this was no longer about duty, no longer about love. This was about survival. This was about justice. This was about reclaiming myself. I leaned back, staring at the mountain of papers that surrounded me. The smell of ink filled the air. The lamp flickered once, throwing the room into shadow. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Not the forced smile of a daughter desperate for approval. Not the tired smile I wore while pressing submit on another transfer. But a sharp smile. The smile of a woman who had finally seen the truth and decided to fight back. They wanted to reduce me to a machine, but they forgot one thing. Machines don't feel. And I feel everything. The betrayal, the fury, the hunger for justice. They created this version of me, and now they would face her. The daughter they thought they could control. The daughter they thought would never say no. The daughter who was finished being used. I whispered into the silence. This ends now. And in that moment, my revenge was born. I thought the hardest part was finding out the truth, but it wasn't. The hardest part was deciding what to do next. Because knowing they had used me was one thing, but breaking free, cutting every tie, was another. I sat in my apartment for hours, staring at the piles of paper spread across the floor. Transfers, contracts, receipts, proof of every sacrifice I had made. My hands trembled as I touched each page. They weren't just documents. They were pieces of me, pieces of my life, that I had willingly given away. And now, I had to tear them back. So I called a lawyer. His name was Mr. Howard. I found him after hours of searching, reading reviews, checking credentials. I needed someone smart, someone ruthless, someone who could help me cut every thread. The next morning, I walked into his office. The city buzzed outside. Traffic lights flickering, people rushing past. But inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. The carpet muted every step. The walls were lined with shelves of heavy books. Framed certificates gleamed under the lights. The smell of leather and polished wood filled the air. Mr. Howard sat behind his desk. Sharp suit, measured eyes. He studied me as though he already knew why I was here. "How can I help you, Ms. Mitchell?" he asked. For a moment, my throat tightened. The words stuck. I could almost hear my father's voice. "We're proud of you, Clara." My mother's whisper. "You're our angel." Hi, Ethan's mocking laugh. "She'll pay. She always does." I closed my eyes, and then I spoke. "I want to cut every financial tie with my family. Every single one. I don't want them to have a loophole. Not a thread. Not a single way back in." The silence stretched between us. Only the ticking of his clock filled the room. Finally, Mr. Howard leaned forward. His voice was calm, deliberate. "This will not be easy. It will be painful. You will feel guilt pressing on you. You will question yourself, maybe even hate yourself for a time. But if you don't do this, they will keep using you. Forever." I lowered my gaze. My hands shook in my lap, but I forced myself to nod. "I know. That's why I'm here. I need someone to help me close every door." His eyes softened just slightly. "This decision, it will hurt, but it will save you." When I left his office, the air outside felt colder, but also clearer. For the first time, I felt I had taken a step toward freedom. That night, I sat at my desk again. The folders Mr. Howard had prepared waited beside me. My laptop glowed in the dim light. The room was silent, except for the pounding of my heart. I opened the first file. The transfer order. $3,000. The number I had typed for 5 years. Month after month. A ritual. A chain. My finger hovered over the button. Memories flooded in. My mother whispering, "You're our angel." My father saying, "We're so proud of you." Ethan laughing, "She'll pay. She always does." My eyes filled with tears. But I pressed cancel. The screen blinked. Confirmation appeared. The chain was broken. My chest felt hollow, like I had cut away a piece of myself. But beneath the pain was relief. I moved to the next. The retirement account. Their names printed bold at the top, my signature at the bottom. I remembered the day I set it up, how proud I had been, believing I was giving them safety, believing it would make them love me. Now, all I felt was anger. I clicked terminate. Another confirmation. Another bond severed. Then came the insurance policies. Health. Life. Documents I had signed in their favor. Every word written in my hand. I hovered over their names, and I erased them, one by one. The screen flashed with each confirmation. Each flash felt like a blade. Each cut left me raw. My voice trembled inside me. Every click of the mouse felt like cutting away a piece of my soul. But if I didn't, they would bleed me dry. I pushed the laptop shut. The sound was sharp, final. I buried my face in my hands. The tears came again, hot and heavy. But this time, they didn't weaken me. They strengthened me. Because I knew what I had done. I had closed the doors. I had built walls. And I had finally chosen myself. For years, I had been their net, their comfort, their endless supply. But tonight, I became something else. I became the woman who no longer begged for love, the woman who no longer existed to be drained, the woman who had started down the path of revenge. And in the silence of that room, I whispered to myself, "This is the beginning of my revenge." The night was heavy, dark, silent. My apartment felt like a battlefield before the first shot. Papers spread across the floor, bank statements, contracts, receipts, like fallen soldiers waiting to be called. The lamp cast long shadows across the walls, making the room feel smaller, tighter, like the weight of everything I had carried for years was closing in on me. I sat down, opened my laptop. The glow of the screen lit my face, pale and determined, and then I began to type. One word, then another, then a flood. My fingers hit the keys faster and faster, anger mixing with grief, grief hardening into cold resolve. I wrote 12 pages of truth sharpened into knives. I didn't write as a daughter. I didn't write as a sister. I wrote as a witness, as the victim they thought would stay silent, and as the woman who finally refused to be used again. The words bled onto the screen. I know the truth now. Every word of love, every thank you, every smile from you, Mom, Dad, Ethan, was nothing but a mask to cover your greed. For 5 years, I believed I was helping. For 5 years, I sacrificed. For 5 years, I thought I was loved. But in your eyes, I was never your daughter. I was only a machine, a walking ATM. I stopped for a moment. The cursor blinked at me. My hands shook. Tears blurred my vision. But I didn't delete a word, because this was the truth they had built. I attached the documents one by one, each file another weapon. Bank transfers, month after month, $3,000 gone. Insurance contracts, my signature, their benefit. Retirement accounts, built in their name, stolen from my future. The spa receipt, the cruel email Ethan left open. Every piece of evidence, every scar. At the end, I wrote simply, "From this day forward, there will be no more money, no more support, no more ties. You have lost me, and you will never use me again." No, I signed my name, Clara Mitchell. And then I pressed send. The soft sound of the email leaving my outbox echoed like a gunshot, like the opening of a war. Silence returned, but it didn't last. The phone rang. Margaret. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. Her voice poured through the line, desperate, broken. "Clara! Darling, no. You're mistaken. You're wrong. We love you. We're your family. You've misunderstood." Her sobs filled the room, tears against words. But I felt nothing. I whispered back, cold and steady. "I didn't misunderstand, Mom. I finally understand." The line went silent, and then disconnected. Minutes later, the phone lit up again. "Ethan." I pressed accept. His voice struck me like a blade. "You're selfish. Do you even hear yourself? You're rolling in money, Clara. A few thousand means nothing to you. Nothing. And you can't even help your own family? Pathetic." I closed my eyes, my breath steady. The old Clara would have cried, begged, apologized, but not this Clara. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I let him spit his venom, and when his words faltered, I hung up. The silence returned, but this silence wasn't suffocating. It was mine. I sat back at the desk, pulled out a notebook, and began to write again. Not an email this time, but a plan for survival, a plan for revenge. Step 1, gather evidence. I already had it, printed, scanned, backed up in 3 places, saved in a USB locked in my drawer, hidden in cloud storage under a false name. If they ever dared to twist the story, I could burn them with proof. Step 2, close every door. The transfers, canceled. The retirement account, terminated. The insurance policies, stripped of their names. Every confirmation printed, signed, and stored. Every thread they once held, cut. Step 3, legal defense. Mr. Howard was already drafting letters, cease and desist orders, warnings of litigation. If they tried to take a loan in my name, if they touched my credit, They would face courtrooms and judges. I wasn't just protecting my money, I was protecting my identity. Step 4, emotional defense. I reminded myself of Dr. Lewis's words. Boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are survival. I would not pick up every call. I would not answer every plea. I would not let tears drag me back into chains. Step 5, silence as punishment. No more explanations. No more debates. No more shouting to be heard. Just silence. A silence that would grow louder in their heads than any scream. Let them choke on the emptiness. Let them sit in the darkness they created when their machine stopped working. Step 6, transformation. While they begged, I would live. I would invest in myself. Travel. Learn. Grow. I would show them that the best revenge isn't destruction. It is transformation. It is a life lived better without them. I looked at the list. Every step was fuel. Every line a weapon. And I whispered into the silence. I gave them the truth. I gave them proof. And what did they give me? Lies, anger, blame. So let them live with it. Let them live without me. From now on, I am no longer their daughter. I am their consequence. I leaned back, closing my eyes. The phone lay silent beside me. The air was heavy, but it no longer pressed me down. For the first time, I felt power, not borrowed, not stolen, but mine. And in that moment, I knew my revenge had begun, not with fire, not with screaming, but with silence, sharp, cold, final, the silence of a woman who had finally chosen herself. The room was quiet, too quiet. A soft lamp glowed in the corner. Shadows stretched across the carpet. The faint scent of lavender lingered in the air. I sat on the leather chair, my hands clasped tight in my lap. Across from me sat Dr. Lewis calm, steady, her eyes kind but sharp enough to see through me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence pressed on me, and finally, the words broke free. I feel stupid, I whispered. Utterly stupid. All my life. I believed they loved me. I believed I was special to them, that I was their pride, their joy. But now I see I was nothing. Nothing but money. Nothing but a machine. My throat closed. Tears burned the edges of my eyes. I pressed my palms against my knees, trying to steady the shaking. Dr. Lewis leaned forward, her voice soft, measured. Clara, setting boundaries is not selfish. It is survival. What you did, cutting those ties, that wasn't cruelty. That was courage. I shook my head. Her words couldn't pierce the guilt that gnawed at me. But the way they begged, the way they cried, I keep hearing their voices. My mother sobbing, my brother screaming, my father silent but watching. And part of me wonders, am I cruel? Am I abandoning them? Her gaze was steady, her words firm. No, you are not cruel. They abandoned you long before you walked away. They abandoned you the moment they chose greed over love. What you did was protect yourself. It is not heartless to survive. Her words cut deep, but they carried truth. I closed my eyes, and the memories came rushing back. I saw myself at 7, a little girl in pigtails clutching a paper in both hands. A perfect report card. I ran down the street, my shoes slapping against the pavement, heart soaring. I burst into the living room, out of breath but grinning. Daddy, look! Look what I got! Thomas looked up from his newspaper. For once, his stern face melted. He opened his arms, his voice filled with warmth. You are my pride, Clara, my greatest pride. I felt it echo in my chest. Those words sank into me like seeds, and I carried them into every late night at school, every overtime shift, every transfer of money, Because I believed them. I believed I was their pride. But here, sitting in Dr. Lewis's office, I saw it differently. That pride had changed. Slowly, quietly, it had rotted, turned into expectation, and expectation had hardened into entitlement. I whispered through clenched teeth, "That pride. It isn't real anymore. It became a monthly payment. It became a direct deposit." Dr. Lewis's eyes softened, but her words stayed sharp. Pride built on conditions is not pride. Love that demands a price is not love. You must grieve, Clara. You must grieve the parents you thought you had, because the parents you have are not the ones you dreamed of. The words sliced through me. I wanted to fight them, but deep down, I knew. She was right. Tears fell silently. I didn't wipe them away. They slid down my cheeks, soaking into my blouse. "I don't even know who I am without them," I confessed. "My whole life has been about them. Every decision, every sacrifice. If I'm not their provider, their safety net, their angel, then who am I?" Dr. Lewis leaned back slightly, her voice steadier now, like a rope thrown across a raging river. "You are Clara Mitchell. You are more than their machine, more than their bank. You are a woman who built her own life, her own career, her own strength. You are the one who gave. And now, it is time to give to yourself." Her words wrapped around me, not like chains, but like a balm, soothing, healing. Slow, I breathed in. The air felt heavier, but clearer. Another memory rose. I was 10, standing on a stage, clutching a small trophy from a spelling bee. The lights were bright, the applause thundered, and in the crowd, my parents clapped, my mother's eyes wet with tears, my father standing tall, nodding. When it was over, I ran to them. "Did you see me? Did you see?" Margaret hugged me tight. "You're our angel." Thomas put his hand on my shoulder. "You make us so proud." And I had believed it, every syllable, every word. But here, in this quiet office, the memory shifted. Their pride was never in me. It was in what I gave them, the image I upheld, the benefits I provided. Love that demanded proof. Pride that demanded payment. I whispered into the silence. What I thought was love was just hunger. Hunger dressed as affection. Dr. Lewis nodded. "Then you must learn the difference, Clara. Real love does not drain you, it fills you. Real pride does not demand, it celebrates freely. Theirs was never love, never pride, and you must stop mistaking it for such." The tears came again, but this time they were different. Not just grief, but release. I looked down at my hands that had signed every contract, hands that had carried every burden, hands that had built their comfort at the cost of my soul. And for the first time, I wondered, what could these hands build for me? The thought terrified me, but it also sparked something small, something stubborn, something alive. When I left Dr. Lewis's office, the world outside felt sharp. The city noise roared louder than usual. The wind stung against my face. But inside, I felt lighter. Not whole, not healed, but lighter. Because I understood something vital. Cracks don't mean weakness. They mean space for light. And for the first time in years, I felt a sliver of light breaking through. 6 months. That's how long the silence lasted. 6 months without their voices. 6 months without their demands. 6 months without hearing my name twisted into guilt or praise, whichever suited their purpose. At first, it felt strange. The quiet was heavy, pressing. For years, I had lived in noise. The ringing of the phone, the emails piling up in my inbox, the constant background hum of their needs. And then, suddenly, nothing. In the first week, I almost reached for the phone myself. The habit was strong. I thought maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I should explain again. Maybe I should make sure they were okay. But I didn't. I stopped my hand midair, and I let the silence remain. And slowly, the silence changed. It stopped feeling heavy. It began to feel light, liberating. I filled my days with things I had forgotten. Yoga. I signed up for a class at a studio near my office. The first session, my body resisted. Muscles tight, joints aching, my breath shallow. But as I stretched, as I held each pose, as I closed my eyes, something shifted. Not just in my body, but in my soul. Every inhale felt like reclaiming space. Every exhale felt like letting go of their grip. Books. I returned to the shelves stacked in my apartment, dust thick on covers I had bought years ago. Stories I had promised myself I would read one day. Now, I had time. I opened the first page and I let myself disappear into other worlds. Worlds where no one asked me for money. Worlds where no one lied to me with a smile. Worlds where I could simply be Clara. Work. For years, I had buried myself in it. It had been an escape, but also a chain. Every overtime hour, every late night, every dollar earned, all of it funneled into them. But now, it felt different. I laughed more at the office. I shared lunches instead of eating alone. I joined conversations I once avoided. Colleagues noticed. "You seem lighter, Clara," one said. And I smiled, because it was true. Travel. Business trips had always been mechanical. Fly in, meetings, fly out. But now, I paused. I looked out the plane window, watched the sun scatter across the clouds, watched cities shrink below. And I thought, this is freedom. I extended a trip once, staying an extra day. I walked the streets of a new city, tasted food I'd never tried, breathed air that didn't carry the weight of my family's demands. And for the first time, I felt alive. My voiceover carried through these images. 6 months without them, and I felt lighter than I ever had. My time was mine. My money was mine. My life was mine. And my heart finally learned to beat without their chains. But freedom has a way of being tested. It was a Friday evening. The city outside buzzed with life. Cars honked. People laughed on the sidewalks. The golden glow of sunset filtered through my blinds. And then, a knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. I froze. For a moment, I thought of ignoring it. But curiosity pulled me to the door. I opened it, and there they were. Thomas, Margaret, my parents. They looked older, or maybe just worn. Thomas's hair was grayer, Margaret's eyes red as though she had been crying. But behind their faces, something lingered, something I knew too well. "Clara," Thomas began. His voice was heavy, rehearsed. "We were wrong. We made mistakes. Please, give us another chance." My heart clenched. For a second, the little girl inside me stirred. The girl who once ran home with perfect grades, who believed every word of praise. The girl who believed in pride and love. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think this was real. But then Margaret spoke. Her voice was softer, her eyes wet with tears, her hands clasped together as if in prayer. "If you could just add our names back to the insurance, Clara, everything will be fine again. We can move past this. We can be a family again." The words hit me like ice water. It wasn't remorse. It wasn't love. It wasn't regret. It was hunger. Still hunger. Always hunger. The mask slipped. The illusion shattered. In that instant, I saw everything clearly. Every angel. Every "we're proud of you." Every "you're our pride." It had all been the same thing. A performance. A line rehearsed to keep me giving. My hand tightened at my side. My breath steadied. My eyes lifted to meet theirs. "No," I said, my voice low, but certain. "Not this time. Not ever again." I am not your safety net. I am not your machine. I am done. Truly done. Thomas flinched. His shoulders sagged, his lips pressed tight. Margaret's eyes widened, her mouth tightening into a line. Behind their practiced sadness, I saw anger, disappointment, the collapse of their plan. Clara, please. Thomas tried again, but I shook my head. No, you had your chances. You had years of chances, and you wasted them. This door is closed. The silence stretched, heavy, unforgiving. Finally, they turned. Their footsteps echoed down the hall, slow, defeated. The door closed with a dull thud behind them. I leaned against it, my body trembling. My hands shook. Tears pricked at my eyes, but my heart was calm. I whispered into the quiet. They came back, but not for me, not for my love, not for family. They came back for money, and once again, they showed me the truth. They will never change, but I have, and that is my victory. I walked to the window. The city glowed outside, alive, endless. For years, I had felt small beneath it, but now I felt strong. My silence, my refusal, my life without them was the sharpest revenge of all. The pounding on the door grew softer, once desperate, now fading. Their voices cracked through the wood. Clara, please, open up. Don't do this. We can change. You're our daughter. You'll always be our daughter. Each word scraped at me. Each plea clawed at the little girl inside who once believed them. For a moment, my hand lifted toward the lock. A single thought flickered. What if this time is different? What if they finally see me? But then Margaret's voice cut through again, faint, desperate. If you just add us back to the insurance, everything will be fine. The illusion shattered. It was never about me. It was never about love. It was always about money. I let my hand drop. I stepped back, and I whispered to myself, no more. Not this time. Not ever again. The knocking weakened. The voices fell quiet. Until at last, there was nothing. Silence. Pure. Final. I turned the lock with a soft click, and I walked away. My apartment was still. Too still. For years it had been filled with their echoes, phone calls, messages, requests. Now, nothing. I looked at the boxes stacked neatly in the corner. Papers, statements, proof of everything I had endured. For a moment, I considered burning them, letting the flames consume the past. But no, they weren't a burden anymore. They were a reminder, not of weakness, but of strength. The strength it took to finally say no. I slid the boxes under my desk, closed the drawer, and whispered, "You no longer own me." I grabbed my coat, opened the door, and stepped into the night. The hallway felt longer than usual, but my steps were steady, every stride another inch away from them. When I reached the street, the city greeted me. Chicago at dusk, alive, breathing, unstoppable. The air was cool, brushing against my skin. The scent of the river drifted on the breeze. Cars passed, laughter spilled from open cafes. Life pulsed around me. For the first time in years, I wasn't just moving through it. I was part of it. I walked toward the bridge. The Chicago River shimmered under the fading sun. Gold spilled across the water, fractured by ripples. The sky burned with orange and crimson. I stopped in the middle of the bridge. The wind tugged at my hair. The city stretched on both sides, endless and alive. I leaned against the railing, staring down at the water. It moved freely. No chains, no cages. No one telling it where to go. And I thought, that's me now. That's who I've become. I closed my eyes and I saw her, the little girl I once was. running home with a paper in her hands, smiling, breathless, waiting for her father's praise, hungry for love. I opened my eyes, and I saw myself now, a woman standing tall, unshaken, her chains broken. I whispered to that little girl, "You survived. You made it. And now, you're free." My voiceover carried into the wind. I once thought revenge meant making them hurt the way I hurt. I thought it meant fire, rage, destruction. But now, I see. The sweetest revenge is silence. It is freedom. It is happiness lived without chains. I owe them nothing. Not my money, not my tears, not even my hate. I am done. I am whole. I am mine. The sun dipped lower. The river glowed with fading light. The city sparkled, alive with possibilities. And I smiled. Not the tired smile of a woman begging to be loved. Not the mask I had worn for years. But a true smile, born of freedom, born of rebirth. I turned from the water, my steps light, certain. The wind followed me, carrying away the last echoes of their voices. I whispered one final time, "My revenge is my life, and I choose to live it." And with that, I walked forward, into the night, into the city, into the life that was finally completely mine.